Hi, I'm Becky Stern. Today I'm going to show you how to get started with the LilyPad Arduino, which is a sewable microcontroller allowing you to embed lights, sounds, and sensors into your everyday fabric objects like clothes and accessories. Here are the things you'll need. You'll need your LilyPad, your power supply with a AAA battery, your LilyPad programmer with a USB cable, some scissors, some conductive thread on a needle, and a pair of pliers to turn a regular LED into one with little coiled leads on the bottom. This is so that it makes them easier to sew. And to get started, we'll just sew our LilyPad to the power supply on this piece of fabric in an embroidery hoop. You don't have to put it in an embroidery hoop, but it helps keep the fabric tight. The first thing we'll do is sew the LilyPad to the power supply. So you'll notice here on the left that there's a plus and a minus, and these conductive traces are what's going to connect to the same plus and minus on this little battery holder. So there's a plus and a minus, and unfortunately when we put them next to each other, you can see that the plus and the plus lines up with plus over here and minus goes to minus, so they would be crossing. So we're just going to have to sew on the underside of the fabric for one and the top side of the fabric for the other. This is so that these particular leads have a really short distance so that we don't run into any problems with the resistance of the thread later. So to sew it, it's very simple. I've knotted the end of my conductive thread, and I'll just come up through the fabric and then down through the hole in the board. And I'll do this a couple times, pretty much till my needle doesn't fit through the hole anymore because there's too much thread. And this will be sure that we get a good, strong mechanical and electrical connection to that little conductive pad right there. Okay, now that my power lead has been sewn down on the LilyPad Arduino, I'm gonna put my battery holder right next to it, and I'm just gonna go up across the back of the fabric. So my thread's still attached, and I'm just gonna go straight for that other pad. Plus to plus and minus to minus. Now that I'm done sewing the positive end of the battery lead down, I'm going to tie off the thread and cut it on the back. Now I'll tie another knot and sew the negative lead. Now I've got to make sure that when I connect this negative to this negative that I don't touch either of these or the thread that's on the back. So I'm going to cut straight over and then start stitching into my ground lead of the LilyPad. Alright, now I'll do the same thing. I'll tie it off on the back and cut the thread. The reason I'm cutting it so short is so that it doesn't have a tail to flap around and fray and then intersect with these connections, because we don't want them to touch, because that would cause a short circuit and then we wouldn't have any power. Okay. Alright, I tacked this side down, and then I went ahead and also tacked down the other side of my LilyPad, just because I know I won't be using that pin later. And the next step is very satisfying. You get to see if what you just sewed actually powers up your Arduino. It's pretty fun. Take your AAA battery, stick plus to plus and minus to minus, and then go ahead and flip it on. You should see a red light on your power supply, and then you should see some kind of blinking light over here on the Arduino. Depending on what, if it has the default program on it, it should just blink. Cool, huh? Alright. Now we get to actually add some of our own components, and then I'll show you how to write some of your own software for it. So go ahead and turn it off. You can remove the battery. And then now I'm going to sew an LED. I'm going to, I've already coiled the leads so that I can sew the thing. I'm going to pick one of my digital output pins. That could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way through 13. Doesn't really matter. Then we're going to tie it to ground. So I'm going to go ahead and pick one of the pins up here just so that I don't have to worry about crossing over this power path again. And now LEDs are polar. It has a plus side and a minus side. The plus side is the longer lead, and I've coiled that into a square. And the ground lead I've curled into a circle. I'm going to tie another knot in my conductive thread. I'm going to sew my LED on the same way I sewed the other things on, just by coiling around the metal part. Ooh. You got to watch out for this stuff. It likes to stick on everything and get really twisted. Okay, now that it's securely fastened, I'm going to stitch a line to one of the pins. And then in the program that we write, we'll tell it to direct electricity through this pin, which we'll use number 2. And that will light up the LED in whatever pattern we choose. Okay, same deal. I'm just going to tie a knot in the back and cut it off. Okay, now that I've sewn the positive lead to the Arduino, I'm going to sew the ground lead to ground, the minus side, right along here. Now that the circuit is all sewn, it's time to put a program on the Arduino microcontroller on the LilyPad that'll tell the LED to light up in a certain interval. So I've installed the Arduino development environment on my computer and followed the instructions for installing it on the Arduino website. And I wrote a little sample program that you can download in the blog post too to get us started. But let's go through what the program's actually going to do.
Here we are inside the Arduino development environment, and I'm just going to go through what the code that I've written here is actually going to do. So up top at the beginning or in any point in the Arduino code, if you use an asterisk with a slash for multi-lines or these double slashes here, anything in gray is a comment, and that means that it's for humans to read, not for the computer to read. It's just for reference to help you understand what the code's doing, and then here's a little intro, and then each line is a comment saying what it does. So then in every Arduino program, the first thing you have is the setup routine, and that just is a piece of code that's only going to run once. And then after that, you have the loop, and that's something that's going to run over and over and over again until there's no more power left. This is how every Arduino program is, every basic Arduino program is formatted. So inside the setup, I'm using a function that's built into Arduino called pin mode, and I'm telling it that I want to make pin 2 an output pin, and that just gets it ready to send a signal out to the LED that's attached to it. And then inside the loop, all I do is I use this function called digital write that is also built in, and that just says send 5 volts, which is what the digital pins are capable of, out to pin 2, and that's high. High is 5 volts and low is no volts. So digital write to pin 2 high means I'm going to turn the LED on and give it power. And then I'm going to wait. I'm going to continue to give it power and wait for 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. Arduino counts in milliseconds. And then I'm going to send another digital write signal out, but this time I'm going to set pin 2 low, which means I'm going to turn the LED off. And then I'm going to wait 1 more second. So on 1 second, off 1 second. And then once it reaches the end of the loop indicated by this little curly brace here, it goes back to the beginning and it executes this portion of code over and over and over again for as long as you have the Arduino on. So this is the simple program that we'll use to blink that LED.
Now that we've got the program all set, we just need to put it on the Arduino microcontroller on the LilyPad board. So that's what the programmer is for. And you just plug it into your computer on a USB cable and then plug it into the Arduino with the chip facing the same direction as the LilyPad chip is facing. And it'll power your board. You'll notice that the little red light on the battery pack will turn on, even if the switch is off. That's because it's getting power over the USB. And now it's time to get them talking to each other. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that the Arduino software knows which serial port to send the data out of. Your computer has lots of serial ports, and Bluetooth devices communicate over an emulated serial. So we just need to pick the right one. And it's right in the Arduino program under the Tools menu. Just go down to Serial Port and then select whichever one says USB serial dash and then a long string of numbers and letters, as opposed to any of the ones that say Bluetooth or modem. And that'll be your little programmer board. It has a unique identifying number and says that USB serial string there. Okay. And then we also want to make sure that we have the right board selected. So also under the Tools menu is the board selection, and then you just pick LilyPad because the other Arduino boards run at a different speed than the LilyPad. We want to make sure the program's running at the right speed. And then we have to send out the information. So that's what the upload button is for. And in order to get them talking, you have to have the LilyPad board listening to the program that's coming in. And when it listens is right after it resets. So there's a little button on the LilyPad, and when you press it, you probably notice that when you let it go, the little LED on board blinks a couple times, and that means that it rebooted. And right after it reboots, just for a couple seconds, it listens for a new program, and we need to send the information to it during those couple of seconds. So it's a little bit of a tricky timing issue. Sometimes it won't work. Just give it a couple tries, and you'll get it. It'll vary based on what computer you're using too. So I'm going to hold down, I found that on this computer I have to hold down the reset button and then press the upload button, wait a full second, and then let go of the reset button. But oftentimes you'll press the reset button, let it go, and then press the upload button. Okay, so I hold down the reset button, then press the upload button in the software, and wait a full second, a second and a half. And I let go. You can tell in its programming when the lights blink in rapid succession, the green light and the red light on the programmer. And it didn't work this time, and you'll see I got an error in the software. That's okay, just try again. Okay, there we go, it's going. See it blinking? And then, woo, it's running our program, which just told it to blink this light. 1 second on and 1 second off. So now it's still powered over the USB cable. We can just unplug the programmer. It'll turn off, that's okay. Plug in the battery, flip the on switch, and we got the same program running, and it'll just run on battery power until there's not enough battery to power it anymore. And there we have it, our own blinking LilyPad Arduino electronic fabric. I hope you've enjoyed this guide to getting started with the LilyPad Arduino, and join me next time for more advanced topics, including sensors, on the craft video.